I'm Catherine Sheeran, host of the podcast Horse Tales with Cat. Today's episode is a continuation of my conversation with George Morris. If you haven't heard part one, you will want to go back and listen to my previous episode. We resume our conversation just after George shared his story of Prince Philip identifying the nicest horse in the barn while visiting the United States equestrian team in Europe. So I was going to ask you a little bit about when you did leave riding to go to pursue the theater in New York, and I wondered how that came about.
Well, when I met Tab and other people in that other part of life, I was starstruck. But he was starstruck. He wanted to be on the team. I wanted to be Tab, and Tab wanted to be me. He was so horsey. Mm-hmm. He was so horsey. He was so starstruck by horses and horse people. Everybody in the horse world knew Tab. I was getting toward the end of the 50s. I remember sitting up in the seats at Aachen, and there were 120 horses in the speed class. And I was bored. And I was getting itchy to New York City, was nearby, theater. I was getting this restless itch. Bert Timothy and I had a not love-hate relationship, but a love not the best on the other side of the coin relationship. A couple of things happened to me on the team with him that were not correct, that now bullying and they talk about safe sport. But I love Bert. Mm-hmm. But we had some issues, and I did not want to continue with the team or with Bert. At that time, they bought Gladstone. They'd never had Gladstone before. So I would have had to, a la Bill Steinkraus, work in Wall Street, go out to Gladstone. That did not appeal to me. Mm-hmm. That was Billy's life. Or Frank had the leather business with his mother's company. He was an amateur, but worked for the wallet company, Buxton. None of that appealed to me. And I did not want to stay with the team. And I wanted to live in New York, and I wanted to explore my personal life. And that's, again, coincidence. There are no coincidences. Everything happens for a reason. At Oxbridge was a frumpy, middle-aged lady that people never talked to her. She was very sweet, and I befriended her. And she had an old three-gated saddle horse. She was actually a friend of Don Harris and a lot of saddle, which I found out later. And she trotted around the polo field on a saddle horse. Nobody had a saddle horse. They were all hunters, and mostly hunters, some jumpers. And this lady's name was Edith Van Cleve. And she turned out to be the top dog at Music Corporation of America, which was in the same building as the AHSA, the 598 Madison Avenue. She had 3 clients, Montgomery Cliff, Grace Kelly, and Marlon Brando.
Great.
She just had 3.
Wow.
They were her clients at MCA. Nobody at Oxbridge knew that. I befriended her. I don't know, we just became friends. I liked her. Mm-hmm. And so we struck up a friendship. I said, Edie, I want to go into the theater. George, you're not going into the theater. You belong with the horses. Edie, I want to go into the theater. I've got to go. George, no. I love you with the horses. So after pestering her, she called Rita Morgenthau, who owns the neighborhood playhouse, the best acting school in New York. Is better than the Academy, the dramatic, the best. Joanne Woodward, everybody went to the neighborhood playhouse. Wow. So she called Rita Morgenthau and said, I have a guy, but he has to ride on the Olympic Dream through the Royal in Toronto, so we can't start till Thanksgiving. And this was forbidden. But you had to, in fact, apprentice during the summer, have audition. Nobody went to the neighborhood playhouse. You didn't just go to the neighborhood playhouse. And I'd never heard of the theater. Mm-hmm. It just was a whim. So because it was Edie, Rita took me. So I go in after Thanksgiving, several months late, And the first thing, you go down to the locker room and get in your leotards. Vegan leotards. That was like a nightmare. So I put on the leotards. The first class was a Martha Graham dance class, and everybody's on the floor doing contractions. And one girl had this bright blue leotard, and she sees me in the mirror come in the door, and she beckons me to come and sit with her because I was new. I knew nobody.
That was nice.
She was very nice, and she became one of my best friends. And Martha Graham hardly ever came to school. And the next year, this came, and this girl had this leotard. And Martha Graham just arrived, and she pointed at Janice Wiley. Bluebird, I don't know your name. I don't know any of your names. I don't want to know your names. I don't care if you're good or bad. I hate to be bored. You are boring me. And she walked out. I saw her 3 minutes, probably in the 2 years I was there. I saw her at Lake Placid afterwards. She was guest of honor at the horse show dinner, but I never saw her. Janice Wiley, in 1963, just after the Playhouse, Janice and I did scenes together. We weren't boyfriend and girlfriend. She was very fun. She was a partier, but we never had anything. But we did scenes all the time. We were partners. And she had this phobia of people following her and people she was a striking blonde. Very striking, not beautiful like Grace Kelly, but striking, blonde, very handsome girl. She'd run to my apartment shaking that someone was following her. She ended up being a very famous murder. It was called the Career Girls Murder. 1960, you can look it up, it's a very famous murder. And she and the girlfriend, some guy got in a second door to their apartment that was not locked and stabbed them both to death. And it was very shocking because she was one of my best friends.
My goodness, I can't even imagine that happening to you. I mean, that's...
And I was up at Lake Placid with Gunnar, and I drove down for a few days to the city. On the radio, I started to hear about this Career Girls Murder, they called it. And I got to the hotel I was staying at for a couple of days, and I raced out to get a newspaper because I had this premonition from the radio. They didn't say who it was. I had this spooky premonition, and by God, there was her picture on the front page. Her father was a famous TV writer, and her uncle Philip Wiley wrote Generation of Vipers, which is a very famous book at that time. So she was a high-profile author family.
I was just thinking that's interesting. So obviously her anxiety was real.
Years, not weeks. The whole time I knew her.
Wow.
It was kind of kooky the way she was about it. I mean, it was kind of kooky.
It's almost like she was having a premonition herself. That's...
Yes, not weeks.
Years.
Years. And the other spooky part, Joanna Pettit, who was from Toronto, she was very beautiful. And she was 17, and she went on to have some success in that movie about Vassar girls. I forgot the name of it. But she had a short, big success in film. She was also in class with us. Let me see, she had lunch with Janice the day of her murder, and she had dinner the night before Sharon Tate's murder, with Sharon Tate.
Wow. Wow.
Both.
That's spooky.
Joanna Pettit, both of them. So this is all off the track, you know. I get rambling on like.
No, but that's like no. I mean, you've had a life.
I've had a lot of lives.
Yes. Wow.
But Pisces are two fish swimming in opposite directions. And I told Meredith, because Meredith Beerbaum's daughter is one day after mine, and I said, she's a Pisces. You won't see it now, but I said, Meredith, she's a Pisces, and she'll see it.
Mm-hmm.
And this girl's a fabulous girl. She's a fabulous rider. She's already had great success. But there's two sides to Pisces.
Mm-hmm. A little bit like Geminis.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Interesting. So then what took you back from the theater to riding?
Well, you had to be invited back the second year to the Playhouse, and not because of any talent, but I'm sure because of Edie. I was all right.
Mm-hmm.
I would have been a working actor, not a star.
Mm-hmm.
So I went through the second year, 2 summers of stock, one up in Cooperstown and one in Fishkill, New York. And I got back after the second summer at summer stock, and I was at a party. And this guy, he was probably gay, he was probably very good looking gay. He was 29, and he had just come back from the West Coast, this 5-year Warner Brothers contract. And I think with Edie, I was offered this 5-year Warner Brothers contract, but I didn't sign anything. And he came back, he was 29, nothing happened. He was not allowed to work at other jobs or anything under this contract. Now he was almost 30. I'm not saying anything wrong with him. There were red flags. I said, now I was 24. I've signed this contract. I could not do other work. I've been out there. I did not feel I was a star. And I said, that's not a good idea.
Mm-hmm. You felt like you could be him in 5 years.
Oh, no question.
Mm-hmm.
So just I think went to the wash. I still went, I'd go some days to the National. I'd go some days to Washington. When I was in that there, not Toronto, it was too far. And Jessica Newberry, Ranshausen, she and I grew up together. We were always very close because we were the same age. And we were in Europe together with her team and my team. So her mother at the Washington Show said, George, would you come up to Sable Forks, that's right near Lake Placid. My husband built a big facility up there with a bomb shelter, but a beautiful horse facility for Jessica. She said, bring jumpers. We have dressage horses. We're hiring. They had George and Inga to rescue Monica's parents over, who I knew well, both of them from Europe. But that didn't work out. They went back to Europe. For whatever reason, it didn't work out. The Newberries were very special. It was very remote up there near Lake Placid. We have hired this Dane, Gunnar Anderson, and you come up, bring some jumpers. You and Jessica ride the dressage horses. You can teach her to ride a hunter, a jumper. We'll have a great time. So I said, this California thing is for the birds. So I said to Ruth, oh, that's great. I shipped up there. Unfortunately, Jessica, after the 1st of January, had the Pan Am team, which was months. They were in Camden, then they were in quarantine, then it went to Sao Paulo. So that was months, 3 months. I had committed to my grandmother, who had done everything for me my whole life, always to travel with her when she went. That was the reciprocity, because I was named after her husband.
Wow.
And I was a favorite, one of the favorites. There was one other girl that was also a favorite. So that was the arrangement.
Mm-hmm.
But she had booked and paid for a 3-month cruise to Australia.
My goodness.
After January 1st. So we, in fact, would not really all be together till, say, April 1st. So Jessica did her thing, went to Camden, went to quarantine, Pan Am, Sao Paulo, Brazil. I went up there in November, December. I went up there before she went and before I went. Then I went on the 3-month cruise, which, was wild because there were the Woolworth heiress boyfriends and Cone Mills in North Carolina. And they all had these guys who were walkers and they were gay. And so it was a very wild 3-month
distracting
cruise.
time.
Yes. So anyway, Then we come back, and I go up there. And that was the best year I ever had with horses. And I can't ever repay Jessica and her family for that, because I taught Jessica to jump in 3 weeks. She was jumping the outside course at Oxbridge and Fairfield in 3 weeks. She was so natural. I shortened her stirrups, bent her over, released her hands, and they were stout 3'6" jumps. There was no half a centimeter cross rail show.
No.
She went right to Oxbridge Fairfield, and that was about 3 or 4 weeks after she jumped her first cross rail. And at Fairfield at lunch, Chris Wadsworth, the judge, who was the big judge at the time, said, "George," and we were all sitting at, "George, you got to get this girl a better horse," because it was just a horse. It was a bay horse, not a good mover, not a dressage horse, not a jumper. A nice horse, but not a horse you win anything on. But that was not her future.
No.
Riding hunters was not her future. Then she had the stable manager's son, had a lovely mare that they bought, a gray mare. This other guy, Lex Anderson. So I had a few Michael, I'm getting a little Alzheimer's, who turned out to be a very big dressage guy. Was up there. He was a kid. So it was the best year. We had hunters, we had jumpers. I still showed jumpers. I showed dressage. Gunnar Anderson was the best thing that ever happened to me. I've never had a teacher since. It was the best year of my life because it was so full. It was so comprehensive. It was so everything.
It sounds like the people around you appreciated you too, which I would imagine.
We appreciate each other.
Exactly. That was going to be my next
sentence. Yes. We had one big problem. I had this fabulous Doberman called Baron, which was my brother. Gunnar fell in love with my dog because I lived in Gunnar's house, and the dog lived in Gunnar. Gunnar fell in love with the dog. I loved the dog to death. Gunnar loved him more. Gunnar would walk him and go out. It was never tense. But it was like this child that two parents equally overloved. So that was I wouldn't say tension, but there was sort of a competitive, now I'm taking Baron out for a walk or a run in the woods, now I'm taking Baron, now I'm feeding Baron now. So to have this icon of icons, Gunnar Anderson and young George, be competitive over this wonderful Doberman. It's sort of cute.
Yes, but I was wondering, how did the Doberman handle it?
He was a real brilliant dog.
Because I was thinking it was probably a little bit of tension for him too.
No, he was not a tense. There was nothing. He was just an A+ dog. So he let my mother into the car at Devon where it was pouring rain, and he wouldn't let her out. He let her in, and she sat there in the passenger seat. It was pouring rain. The car was up by the ringside parking. And when she went to get out, he wouldn't let her out.
He was protective.
She was a prisoner. He was a special dog.
Wow. That's another fond memory, obviously. Interesting that that's the year that you feel in your life was probably your best year with horses.
Best year. Best year because it was so educational and so hunters, jumpers, dressage. The best trainer in the world. Willie Schultheis and Herbert Rabine revered. Gunnar Anderson was right there with Willie and Herbert, right, Neckermann. I mean, he was revered, and Germans don't revere other people. They revered Gunnar Anderson. The tack didn't get to Wiesbaden, so he rode the whole Grand Prix test with no tack. The day before, with a shank and 2 shanks, no halter, no saddle, no bridle. The horse was preparing for his Liz Hartle. There was no tack. So all his practice a day or two before the show was with nothing.
That tells you what a horseman he was.
Leg. Leg.
Crazy.
You can't teach people leg. It's all hand. Au Sable Forks is 45 minutes from Lake Placid. It's very remote. I'm a New Yorker. I was born and bred in New York. I lived 45 minutes from New York City my whole life. I don't love living in the city all the time without escape to the country. My preference is here, Palm Beach, half an hour. I don't go,
No.
but it's there.
Yes.
Fort Lauderdale, an hour. Miami, an hour and 15. It's there. I don't like remote.
Mm-hmm.
Pittstown was an hour and 15 from New York City. It was accessible. So it was Thanksgiving time, and they had an old saying, shit or get off the pot.
Mm-hmm.
My parents had been paying for my hobby, my grandmother, my parent, forever. I was not making a living. I was up at Jessica's, I was still an amateur, but I had to make a living. So my decision, I love dressage. I always did dressage, even in the early 50s when I first saw Jessica and Sancerre, went to Europe. We always watched the dressage. I was an aficionado of dressage. I still am. I'm what is called a dressage junkie. So I had to make the decision at the end of that summer. I had to be a professional. Was I going to follow this new love that I took up with Gunner dressage, or was I going to go back to, which I also love, hunter jumper? Mm-hmm. And I said, George, from a business, it's no contest. I had to be in business, hunter jumper, because I have the credentials. I tell people this, I guarantee if I had gone into dressage, I have won this country individual medals. I guarantee that, because I was so passionate about it. Obviously, I used dressage, but I went into the hunter as a business. Mm-hmm. And then that's when I transferred to this. I sublet a place in Armonk, New York, that Dave Kelly had leased, and that was my first year in '64 as a professional. And that's where I met Jen. This other professional, Ronnie Much, had taught Jen.
And this was Jen Hamilton.
Jen Marsden. She lived in Albany, which was right en route from Sable Forks to New York. So I'd pass her house. So that's in the late '63. That's when Ronnie Much, who I grew up with, I was a great friend and a great competitor, by the way, hooked me up with Jen Marsden. And so she was, with that check, that was my first professional student. I had at Ox Ridge my nieces, nephews, Bill Robertson, Sue Ash. I had taught as an amateur, which, by the way, Bert and Timothy practically forbid me to do because the amateur was so strict. Mm-hmm. But I did that at Oxford. I was an amateur. So she was my first professional student.
And just as an aside for our listeners, Jen Marsden, now Jen Hamilton, actually sent me a picture of that first check that made Mr. Morris a certified professional.
That's right.
So it's kind of full circle that we're sitting here and talking about that.
Exactly.
But I also wondered, you've also written, is it 4 books or 5?
I don't know. I've written a bunch of books.
You've written a lot of books, and I wondered what propelled you to do that, because you are, as we all know, an amazing teacher. Did you feel that writing a book would maybe get that information out to more people?
Well, Trafalgar Publishing urged me and kept urging me. I said to the girls at Trafalgar, I don't want to write it unless I can be honest. And that was 2012. We'd never heard of all of this. And by being honest, I thought I was helping young people.
I think you were.
Not just in writing, I thought I was helping them.
In life.
When I came out in '57, there was no other I was on the U.S. team. There was no other gay person ever. And I never had a problem. Not one time did he ever come to me. They talked behind my back. I'm sure of that. I don't care. Never one time did I have a problem. Mm-hmm. Because that time at the Garden with Dab, I was out. Mm-hmm. I was the same person. I was out. No one ever talked about it.
You were authentic.
Nobody ever discussed it with me. So I did not want to do this biography initially, But Trafalgar urged me, and I said, I only will do it if I'm honest. And I'm happy I did that and was honest, but it was a big mistake. Because Safe Sport used this as a reference for calling people, bugging people, sometimes 2 or 3 times, bothering people, harassing people, because the textbook gave them names of all, not sexually, but just all the people in my life. So they call hundreds of people, and sometimes multiple times, and pressured them into saying things they were not going to say, and had terrible experiences on the phone with them.
That's wrong on so many levels.
But it's in this book I'm reading. It's all now, I sensed all of this. I would say from the early 2000s, my sixth sense sensed all of what was happening now in the world, in this country, in this federation. But I didn't think it. I sensed it. Because none of this group at that time would come to me about any of this, because I was chef to keep. I was untouchable. Then they come up with this bullshit that was to make me touchable. I don't care. I'm 87. I did it. I'm happy. And that one point of that biography is say, listen, if you're young and gay, don't worry about it. I had a big career. I was young and gay and attracted people. Don't worry. That was one of the purposes of that book. That's why I said I would not do it unless I was honest.
Right.
I was hoping that would help these young people with their identity survive and be okay.
That's a lovely intention.
That's one of the reasons I wrote the book. I'm now teary-eyed. I'm okay. I'm teary-eyed because that was the point. I don't care about these people. I know what they are. I know history. I know the viciousness of Marxism. I've been to those countries. I saw my boyfriend Larry and his mother and browbeaten by Ceausescu and that whole regime there. I've been to all those countries. I saw it.
It's sad because your intentions were pure and good and you were authentic, and then that was turned against you.
Yes, it was. It's okay. It's okay. My purpose now is to stand up to this.
Yes.
Right or wrong, I don't care. To stand up to this, and the people, they know who they are. The people know who they are. There's a cadre, big, it's a big group. It's called jealousy and envy and hatred. Some of these people, they have a blind hatred for me. And unfortunately, I know all their closets. Not just with sexual abuse. I know lots of other abuses. The Federation. I know lots of other abuses with the Federation and what they have pushed forward in rule books and promoted and encouraged. I know all. I've been in this business since the 40s, all over the world. I know all.
So what would you like us to finish with? What would make you feel best?
Truth will out. It's like riding a horse. When I see these people put their horses' heads on their chest, I'm not a goody two-shoes. I'm a horse show expert. I'm not a goody two-shoes. And there's lots of things my whole life I did that I would not do now. But when I see the neck vertebrae broken, and I'm not talking about hunter-jumper, I'm talking about all these other disciplines. When you look videos of all these other disciplines, it is disgusting. It is horrible. This with Aaron Ballard is nothing in comparison to what is promoted, encouraged, taught, competitive, nothing. That's how hypocritical and disgusting these people are. When Mark Todd, one of my best friends, great horseman of the century, with a branch, correctly stays with the horse, behind to get him into a little puddle, and the horse is safe, the girl's safe, they're all happy. That's horsemanship. His life was ruined. His life was virtually ruined. He's a good friend of mine. That relative to what really happens. So the truth will out, and that's obviously my role at 87, is to stand up to these people. This hypocrisy, this lying, this blatant lying, this destruction. One of my great disciples, I told you last, Scott Lico blew his brains out in December. He was a perfect guy. McLean gave him horses. McLean caught him. I taught him multiple. He was this perfect gentleman, handsome, rock climbing, surfing, passionate teacher. He always had a notebook. He set up the course. He was my, talk about favorites, my California disciple favorite was Scott Lico. He blew his brains out in December over the safe sport. He's dead.
That's tragic.
Dead. And they sweep it under the rug. They pretend it had nothing to do with that. Scott Lico was fit. He looked 25. I think he was in his early 40s or late 30s. I don't know. He always looked 25. He always was that kind of, he was this pure, great guy. But that's their mission. Their mission is control. Their mission is power and control. And just like all, the history of communism is the lowest common denominator. It's not the highest. It's always down. It's down. And they get in control, and they're violent, crude, horrible people. The Russian jumper riders, when we first went to Europe, had the best horses in the world. They were the crudest. I can't tell you what butchers they were. You have to lift up. You have to point up in life. You have to go to class. I had a guy named Julian, and also was with me. Julian Richard was with me for 30 years, running my property. He was from Mexico, from nothing. He was total class. He was from nothing. In Mexico, nothing. His family, nothing. He was total class. First class, every detail. Class, which people today say, what class? No. Class is not a number. Class is class. And you don't go down. You try to uplift. When I see all these gadgets on horses, no. Gadgets? What about legs? What about seat? What about back? What about voice? What about hand? Spurs reinforce leg. They're an aid. They should not be abused. Whips are an aid. No, they should not be abused. But they're an aid. It's very dangerous, in my opinion, to ride or do anything serious. I'd never ride without a stick or a spur. And as quickly as possible, I introduce beginners. As quickly as possible, 6 weeks to 3 months to a short spur, because that's a different aid than a leg. That reinforces, it's a different aid, totally different aid. It reinforces the leg. But when I see these gadgets and gimmicks and tie downs and this and that, the hypocrisy of this people, you can't ever find anyone that saw me with a draw rein, because I never touched one. Bert Denemeth liked them. I never touched one since 1960. Never touched one, never had one. No student that in my presence, they did behind my back. They did behind my back. You don't place the horse's head with gadgets. You place the horse with legs and hand. The point of putting a horse to the bit with your legs is so you can ride him with your hands, or else the rein aids don't go through. But it requires leg to put the horse to take the hand so you can ride him with the hand.
And this goes back to all of this requires education.
This has no focus on that. This has DEI. All of this is focused on all that has nothing to do with horsemanship. And I see it when I watch on my iPad occasionally. I see it because I'm not allowed to go anywhere because the people, if I even let Michael Plum, you know Michael Plum, when I stopped in Southern Pines and saw him, he got a letter from the Federation and the Sage Board that he couldn't talk to me. I grew up with Michael Plum in 1950. He got a letter. He laughed and threw it in the wastebasket. I grew up with him. Long Island. His father was huntsman of Meadowbrook. I grew up, his mother was a great lady, his sister. I grew up in the kitchen with Michael's family. He got a letter. This is called totalitarian. Oh, I'm glad I'm not young. Oh, I'm glad I'm not young.
They'd have a real fight on their hands if you were. They're still going to have a fight on their hands.
No, because this totalitarian mindset finds a way to erase people. It's through history. It's all the same. It's not new.
No, you're right.
So you're muffled. That's how they fix it. They don't get better themselves. I know them. They're not. They're not A plus. They're not B plus. At maximum C minus in their history. One guy is very prominent now, and I used to say, tuck your shirt in. Tuck your shirt in. You don't smell well. Now they're very high up.
Well, the good news is that you won't be muffled here, for sure. We're going to share this with as many people as we can. So I really wanted to thank you so much for taking time out.
You're a great lady, sweet lady. And
very sweet.
I trust you because you're a friend of Jen, who I trust with my life.
Well, I'm honored that you are trusting your story with me. And as I said, it's been a real privilege and honor to meet with you. And I do thank you for your time and wish you all the best in the future, and hope that this will somehow change things and make it different for...
I was always taught by my mother, speak up. Speak up. And if you don't speak up, you're fleeing. You either fight and speak up, or you flee and stay silent. But these people are frightened. I know all the people at the show, especially the men. They're all frightened of losing their life, of losing their life, their business, their life. That's why there's so many suicides. The best is their business is destroyed. People, they can't suddenly in middle age, very few people can reinvent themselves. Some people can, but that's very difficult. One guy said, oh, George, you've got to, I was 82, you've got to get a different activity. I said, I'm 82. What do you mean get a different activity?
This has been my life.
Yes.
And passion. And I think the biggest challenge is simply because you have given so much to the sport, and the sport has benefited from your efforts. That's why it's even, to me, more of a tragedy, because you've given your life to
Last night I was at a barbecue and dressage people and some hunter jump, a few people, not many. That's all they, I don't want that, but they embrace me and thank me, and they're all out there. But this group that wants power and control, but it's low class. It's not the A game.
No.
It's far from the A game. I know them. I brought some of them up. Far from the A game.
Well, let's just hope that from sharing this, that maybe we'll get rid of the B-gamers.
That's the point. Fight or flight.
That's a good spot to end.
Fight or flight.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks, Catherine.
Thank you, Mr. Morris.